What's up, reefers? In today's video, we're going to continue our discussion on the ideal parameters you should keep your reef tank, and today I'll be discussing alkalinity. I want to start with a disclaimer. Alkalinity can be a pretty scientific and in-depth conversation. We're not going to have that deep of a discussion on it today. This video is more designed for entry-level reefers, and I think that getting too in-depth will just be confusion. To be 100% honest, it's something that for the last 4 years I've been trying to understand, and to this day I'm still learning about it. And I think that that's part of the journey that we take as reefers, is it's a constant learning experience. So I wanted to make a quick video that shares at least the basics of alkalinity and why reefers need to test and maintain alkalinity. So what is alkalinity? Alkalinity is a measurement of the water's ability to buffer against acids. This in turn will help you maintain a proper and stable pH, in addition to adding carbonates and bicarbonates to your water column. Carbonate and bicarbonates are just some of the building blocks your corals use to build their skeletal structure. It's important to have these levels maintained at the proper level. This will in turn help your corals stay healthy and continue to grow and thrive. When it comes to testing for alkalinity, I think it's important that reefers test at least once a week. For me, I believe the more often you test and the more information you have on your system, the better insight you have on what's actually going on in your tank. But testing once a week when you're a new reefer is very important. You want to make sure that your levels don't drop too low, or that they're not inadvertently too high, where you could cause stress or even possible death to your corals. Lots of things in your tank can consume alkalinity. LPS, SPS corals definitely consume them. Soft corals do consume them, but at a slower rate than SPS and LPS. Even your coralline algae in your tank will consume carbonates and bicarbonates, which will in turn lower your alkalinity. So it's important to test and test often, and to learn what your tank consumption is. So testing. Testing is pretty straightforward. I think the most common test kit that people use is Salifert. Another good one is made by Red Sea. I think the next best, which would be my go-to for handheld tests, is the HANA checker, the alkalinity checker. And additionally, I also use my Apex, which has a trident on it, which gives me daily readings 4 times a day. Maintaining alkalinity. There's a few ways that you can maintain your alkalinity. I think for entry-level reefers in a young tank, either before or when you just have a few corals, or maybe you're starting with soft corals, the consumption of alkalinity is going to be much less than in an established tank with a lot of LPS and SPS corals. So a lot of reefers can actually replenish this strictly through weekly water changes. Once water changes stop being able to support the consumption of the tank, then you have to start considering some other kind of supplement to supplement your alkalinity, which also includes calcium and magnesium, but those we'll get into further on future videos. There's a lot of things that you can use that are out there on the market. There's two-part. The basic two-part that I use is the BRS Bulk Pharma. The reason I use them is it tends to be fairly inexpensive, readily available, and they also have the calculator on their website, so you can plug in your parameters and basically get exactly how much you need to dose your tank. When it comes to dosing, once you need to dose, you might only need to do it weekly. You might need to do it, every couple days. You might even need to do it every single day. When you're hand dosing, in the beginning, generally, it's maybe every couple days your tank drops, 0.2, 0.3 of a DKH, and you're going to dose to bring it back up. Once it starts using maybe half a DKH to 1 DKH, you're probably going to want to move up your dosing from every few days to every day. Once you're using, I would say, 0.75 of a DKH in a 24-hour period, then you might want to start considering some kind of automated dosing, or split your dose up into multiple doses, because what you want to avoid is big jumps. So if your tank drops an entire DKH from a day, and then you dose all at once and bring it all the way back up, you're having a full 1 DKH swing, and that's what you want to avoid. I wouldn't ever raise the level in the tank more than 1 DKH at any given time. Ideally, you want this dose spread out over the day. Your corals will be consuming alkalinity, and if you're dosing a little bit all day, you tend to keep those levels more stable, and that's really what you want to do. Once you get out of hand dosing, the next step would be into some kind of automated dosing, such as a dosing pump. I know Bubble Magus makes a good one that I've used. Dose, which is part of the Apex, is the one that I currently use. And there's a few other ones out there on the market, but as long as you have a reliable doser, generally what they do is they'll take your daily dose that you need that your tank consumes, and they'll spread it out throughout the day, so it's basically almost being dosed as fast as it's being consumed, so that your DKH stays at a stable level throughout the day. As you get further in your reefing journey, you might find that dosing still might not be able to keep up with your consumption. Not that it won't keep up, but you'll be dosing large amounts every day. And this is generally when you have a large tank full of SPS corals that have a high alkalinity consumption. And when you get to that stage, you might be considering other methods of replenishing alkalinity, such as a calcium reactor, maybe even a calc stir. Just to mention that there are other methods of maintaining this that you might ultimately go to later in your reefing journey. And let's say you test Monday at 6 p.m. You're going to want to test Tuesday again at 6 p.m. and maybe even Wednesday again at 6 p.m. And what you're going to learn by testing at the same time of the day, multiple days in a row, is you're going to learn how much alkalinity your tank consumes in a 24-hour period. The way I did mine is I tested every day at 6 p.m. for 3 days in a row, and I got the difference between each day, and then I averaged that out. That gave me an average daily consumption, and that's what I started my dose at. In the beginning of your dosing, you're going to want to closely monitor your levels, and you might need to adjust a little up or a little down on your dose, just based on how your tank reacts to what you're actually dosing. You also want to keep in mind that as your tank matures and as your corals grow, your level of consumption is going to increase. Coralline algae consumes it. The corals itself consume it. Primarily hard corals, but I do believe soft corals do also utilize it, just they consume much less than a coral that has a hard skeleton. So the takeaway for beginning reefers should be that you should have your goal, whether it be 8 DKH, 8.5, 9, whatever you choose to be your ideal parameter. You try to stay within that. The number isn't as important that you choose within that parameter, but consistency is the most important. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and stay tuned. We'll have more videos to come, and until next time, happy reefing.